We all know AI is going to change the face of SaaS forever. It already is. Dharmesh, who is just the seer of tech, it's AI agents. That's where it's going to be in the future. There was a big philosophy at HubSpot's. We have to disrupt ourselves first. We can be disrupted by someone making a cheaper version of the CRM. We'll make one for free. Try to disrupt that. Salesforce, free. What would disrupt our SaaS platform? An agent that would do the whole thing for you. Well, then we're going to make agents.
So, Nick, I see that you started your career as a public relations intern and you moved your way up to being a principal professor and head of channel partner of inbound success training at HubSpot. And now you find yourself running your own agency and being the lead facilitator. And so I would just love to hear from your own words how you got to where you are today.
Totally awesome. Well, thanks for having me here, Keaton, and hello to all of Keaton subscribers. It's a pleasure to one way, I suppose, audio meet you all. But yeah, I was a political science major in college. And I always thought one of the most effective ways to lead and make a dent in the world, in the universe, is in politics and becoming maybe an elected representative working in government. And I was fortunate during college to be able to get some opportunities, like you cited there, a chance to intern at the office of the spokesman for the Secretary General for the United Nations. I interned at the New York State Assembly. I was involved in student government and stuff like that my entire high school and college career. And over time, I started to meet entrepreneurs and other business owners. I studied them and so on. And I found that yes, of course, our political leaders of all kinds, local and national, do make a big difference in how we run and live our lives. But I think, as we can all attest, there's also many startups, the apps, the services. Think about what Uber did for how the world moves and things like that, what Airbnb did for where the world stays, and what Ben and Jerry's did for how we even view the environmental impact of ice cream. And how ice cream can be made in a more earth-friendly way. I realized there's a lot of social entrepreneurship really caught my attention. So I started shifting my focus less into law and politics and then into entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship especially. And that's when I stumbled across HubSpot after I graduated. And this was a company that was allowing small and medium-sized business owners to be able to take advantage of a lot of the trends that were helping drive business on the internet. And I said, this is an idea whose time has come. And so I moved to Cambridge, Mass, and took an entry-level job there at HubSpot and really didn't look back. Almost 5 years later, the company had gone public. It had gone from 300 employees or so when I joined to 1,300 employees on 3 continents. I was in a lot of their product videos, their marketing videos. I volunteered to have my voice be the voicemail greeting when you called the main office number. I just loved that place. And Brian Halligan and Dharmesh Shah gave me a tremendous opportunity to be a leader inside their company, is in the customer success team and the HubSpot Academy team, especially. I was one of the founding members of that team. And that's when I started to realize, I started coming to my own of, I can use my communication skills and do one-to-many content creation and live podcasting, broadcasting. I love the idea of helping small and medium-sized business owners punch above their weight using the trends and the technologies and the tools that now is at everybody's fingertips with the internet. And then I loved using the mediums and the formats of webinar, videos and live presentations and the like, and also in-person live events. Was involved in putting on a lot of that too through the Inbound conference that HubSpot had put on and still puts on today. I spoke at Inbound just a couple months ago for the 4th time. So that company really helped me cut my teeth in marketing, cut my teeth in technology, entrepreneurship, startups, and also just find my voice of being able to create content like that. So after working for a number of HubSpot's leading agency partners that were out there in our partner community, they were working more deeply with HubSpot customers over a longer period of time than I would just doing some training videos and things like that through HubSpot Academy. I gained a lot more hands-on experience in working with companies on partnering with HubSpot, working with a technology company, and also being a professional services firm that's partnered with a technology company. I realized I really love the partnership motion too, the better together story. This software plus this network of service providers together can really help the customer go further, farther, faster working together. I mean, just look at Microsoft, what they did. It was all driven primarily through, and still is today, a huge part of their partner network. Salesforce, very similar, and HubSpot was a big success story there too. So rode the orange rocket and then rode that with some of their agency partners. And altogether, I said, well, I've had a good run. That's been 15 years. I just summarized there in a few minutes. And what do I want to do next is to play on, my superpowers, which is podcasting, broadcasting. And I know there's a lot of businesses out there that I've encountered who don't have a spokesman or they're not sure how to be their own best spokesman. And the idea of marshaling all this technology, marshaling these platforms, putting themselves out in a more massive way, in like a webinar, 50, 100, 300, 500 people on it, an in-person field event, dinners and stuff. These are just moving parts that I love that stuff. I also have a DJ background, which I did in college and stuff. And I love the excitement of let's get a bunch of people together who don't normally organize something like this together, virtually or in person, rally them so we can put on a great show for people and then put on that great show. I love that, making the big impact on the guests and the attendees, and then seeing the people I helped present or facilitate that go, wow, I didn't even know I could do that. I was so terrified. I was afraid it was going to go wrong, but you helped it go smoothly and we had fun and it was inspiring. And you know what? We even have some leads and we have some follow through. We built some connections out of this. So that's really what I live for, man. So that's what I'm out here doing. Been about 14, 15 months in. I've done about that many engagements, 14, 15 different engagements, different companies, huge Fortune 50 companies to small little 1 or 2 person startups. And I'm just enjoying experimenting and finding the optimal path to do what I just described there for people.
Man, that is awesome. That is a really cool story, man.
Thank you.
Especially like joining HubSpot so early. Paramify, we use HubSpot all the time.
You do?
And yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
It's really the only CRM I really have experience with.
Yeah, I know, it's so user friendly, relatively speaking, as a CRM.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, especially in comparison to something like Salesforce, where you kind of like need an engineer to come in and like build it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You often can. Yeah. I think they've come a long way. They've made some strides, but yes, it's a little bit more complex and usually was for those larger enterprises. And when I started at HubSpot, we were using Salesforce, and at HubSpot it was really cool. We always tried to scratch our own itch. So we used everybody else's software when we didn't have the tools within HubSpot. We would say, oh, you know what? We use ExactTarget a lot and we're overwhelming it. Like we're breaking it. So how can we build our own email tool that's like the type of tool we wish we could use? What's our dream email tool? We would build it for ourselves. We'd test it, make sure it didn't blow up in our faces. And then we go, okay, great. Let's offer this out to other people. We did the same thing with the CRM.
Man, that is so sweet. I have to ask you, like, what was that experience when you were, say, like employee number like 300? What was that experience like entering a company like HubSpot? What was like the atmosphere of the company? Was the energy of the company like, hey, we're building something massive? Or was it more so like a kind of a chill culture? I'm just curious what that experience was like.
I'm glad you asked, man, because it was some of the best business years of my life. I felt I had really made the team. When I got in there, I felt I made it into the ground floor. And there was that feeling. We are at the ground floor of something. And we are also at the tip of the spear as to what we're doing out there in the market. It was a big privilege to be like, I'm part of the company that gets over 1 million hits to its website, not to buy their product, but to like learn from them, to read their blog and stuff like that. That wasn't what SaaS companies were all doing traditionally. I mean, SaaS was barely a term that people recognized when I joined in 2011. I can't believe how much time flies. But it was less about any rules or structure. It was about crushing numbers. It was like we're with a bunch of smart, driven people who've all fled from other companies that had stifling cultures, were not pushed to innovate. And here was a place where we were all allowed to be adults and still actually have fun, be ourselves. And yet it was founded by a bunch of MIT Sloan MBA alums who were like, you got to bring your data. We got to have your structure. And it was so cool, Keaton, to just be around so many smart, driven people. And it drove me to get obsessed with what we were doing. And we lifted each other up. And it was great to bring these customers along. I remember being on calls with people. I'd be like, yeah, this tool's like broken that you're using right now, but don't worry, we're going to replace it over time. So just stick with us. Like people were buying the software for what HubSpot was going to be down the road. They wanted to be customers now so they could like grow up with us. And anything that they wanted, I'm like, we don't exactly have that yet, but we will. As soon as it becomes mission critical for marketers to have, HubSpot's going to make something for that. And I'd never been part of like an agile scrum sort of software development team where literally the software could be updating daily as I'm talking to a customer. I say, oh, well, there's that update. We heard about it, just pushed live. So now the tool looks different. So it was cool. I mean, we were moving so fast and adjusting as we went. It was just fun I was learning every day, and I really enjoyed working with all the really smart, driven people. But I'll tell you more if there's other areas you want to get into about it. But I really did love those years. I learned so much.
I love hearing that, man. It makes me reflect on like my experience with like Paramify. A lot of the stuff that
Hmm.
you're expressing is very similar to my experience at Paramify. When I joined, I was like
Good.
employee number 5.
Wow.
Was tasked with, all right, you're the first sales guy and marketing. Figure it out.
Oh man, you're all
Yeah,
go to market. Yeah.
yeah, legit. Yeah, and so that was pretty funny. And then now we're at about 50 employees, and back then, we had like one client. Now we have hundreds, and just that experience from going from basically nothing, like we were all sharing a table and like a little warehouse with only laptops. We didn't have monitors or keyboards or nothing.
Hmm. Hmm.
And but the people around me were like hyper ambitious. The founders of Paramount were hyper ambitious, very smart people, just fantastic mentors. Through that experience of like scaling Paramify, and like we brought on like other marketers and stuff, got to learn from them because like that was my first job out of college.
Hmm.
Just the atmosphere was kind of like intoxicating. Like, oh, these people are so ambitious and are so passionate about building something. It was just it's a super fun culture to be in, and it's still a fun culture to be in now. It's very like inspiring. And when you're saying like with HubSpot, how people were buying the product for what will be in the future, same type of thing. Like,
Right.
it's in like a super niche market where we're at, and super underserved and super kind of abused by current software providers. It's like all the software is really, really bad. And yeah, like it very, very similar experience there. And so
Something
I
that
think
stood
that's
out to
really cool
me,
to hear.
if I could,
Yeah.
Keaton, because I appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing too, and we can compare and contrast, is one thing that I think we both said the same was what really stuck with us was being physically present with the people and then learning from them,
Hmm.
like the environment. We both said that. And I wonder if that's something that's becoming an increasingly rare thing with our more distributed
Mm.
and global world. Like I'm here from my home office. I worked from my home office all day today, and I've worked from a home office one way or another, whether even when I was working for other companies for the last like 6 or 7 years. But I think I would have really missed and regretted and missed something foundationally if I hadn't had such a long experience like through HubSpot and like you had with Paramify, being with
Yeah.
people and hearing them over the phone, just the vibe of us all cranking it out, around the table. I
Hmm.
totally can relate to that. And I think those are important experiences. And I'm not trying to take away from somebody who can't get that right now. Your company doesn't offer it, the roles you want, that's not really available for you to be able to be in person. I just feel like that's almost an era that maybe not everybody will be entitled to get that experience
Mm.
where sometimes the roles, I mean, there's companies now, I've got clients or people I've met, there's companies is remote and never is going to not be all remote. So I think
Yeah.
it's special what you went through and what I went through, being able to be in the same room with a bunch of ambitious people, all overhearing each other in the phone and meetings and just like sharing notes with each other. That's really cool, man.
I completely agree, man. I think there's something very, very special about that, because it's kind of like the whole saying, you become who you're around. Well,
Yeah,
it's like if
straight up.
you're around people that are building a startup and they're really trying to build something that's like, say, a multi-billion-dollar company that's really, and all these people are truly trying to help other people, you're going to become like those people that otherwise, like, yeah, if you're joining a company that's just remote, which I have worked remote
Sure.
at other companies, it's just like, I just didn't experience even like a fraction of what I've experienced while at Paramify, being
Mhm.
in the office every single day, being
Totally.
around these hyper ambitious people.
And I think where I've
Yeah.
landed today after, 5 years of nothing but that, I mean, it was almost unheard of to say, I'm going to be working remotely for HubSpot. They're like,
Yeah.
what? Like, we got all this like free beer and candy and this like, number one in the nation, like, work culture and stuff. And you want to phone it in. It was like people couldn't believe that. I was like, no, I just have an hour and a half commute and I've got a young kid at home and I've hung out with
Mhm.
everybody here. And frankly, once you've been here for a few years, you pretty much know what you're doing. And I spend most of my time looking down in my cubicle, trying to crush out emails and do like, back then it was go-to meetings, and stuff like that, or WebExes with people. I
Yeah.
remember sitting down with somebody who started with me the same day at HubSpot. We grabbed lunch and I was like, Kelsey, I don't think we've sat down and had lunch for 3 years, It's like we work in the same building and we're both just like so busy doing our thing. So I think there's room for a hybrid. If I were to pick today, my absolute dream arrangement would be to once, maybe twice a week, go in and be around other people, even just other entrepreneurs and stuff. Co-working spaces can provide that, but like I think it'd be nice to just get 1 or 2 days in a week minimum if you can.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the balance is sweet. Like, if you have the opportunity to, like with Paramify right now, it's like I work one day from home, and then the other 4 are in office. But
Sweet.
just having the flexibility of being able to be at home, say, be with your family,
Mhm.
be with your girlfriend or whatever, and work is pretty cool.
Yes, yes, and then you learn to look forward to that day, you use that day in a different way, and then you use your in-office days in a different way, so
Yeah,
I dig that, man. What else
100%,
can I
man.
tell you? What else you wanna know?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Along with that HubSpot experience, I'm quite curious. You watched it go from 300 to 1,300 and
Yeah.
then experience an IPO. I'm
Yeah.
really curious on the far other extreme of when HubSpot was reaching around like that 1,300 employee points. It's just turning into a large company and experiencing an IPO. Like, what was that experience like? And how did the culture of HubSpot change from,
Mhm.
say, being like a 300-person company to now a company that's IPOing and is quite large?
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us hoped that that would happen, but we also had learned and been told it's so rare that a company can get everything right and that, can thread the needle and actually make it
Hmm.
to going public and going public
Hmm.
on the New York Stock Exchange, the most prestigious like stock exchange in the world. And suddenly, a few years later, they're like, it's gonna happen. Like, they're starting to talk to the bankers. Like, people started to come in with business suits on, which you'd never see inside HubSpot, unless you'd be like, "That's a customer, clearly." Whoever's in
Hmm.
a suit around HubSpot is not from around here. Once they started coming in and giving us, like, workshops and stuff like that about this is what you should be expecting to do with your stock options and things like
Hmm.
that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is getting real. We went into this like blackout sort of NDA period. And I was like, this is really going to happen. Oh my goodness. And it's not, and looking back, like we were incredibly lucky in that we had, again, a density of talent, people who would adjust and move and adapt in even uncomfortable ways. I mean, there's certain times we didn't do anything unethical, but I was like, can we even do this? Like, we're still building the app. Like, we're selling it and we just left beta, or like this thing is in private beta. Now I understand that's just standard to how we do it, but
Hmm.
it was like you just had to really watch yourself and watch those numbers. They watched them like a hawk. Let's get our churn rate to below 0. You had to get to negative churn. So not only are you
Whoa.
yeah, like, and you wouldn't do that by
Yeah.
keeping every customer, but you'd make sure that the customers you did keep bought more, upgraded, and
Hmm.
stuff like that, which would counteract naturally, especially if you're selling to small business owners. I mean, we'd lose customers just because, sorry, my business got acquired. Best
Hmm.
case scenario, or worst case scenario, it failed. So there is no business
Hmm.
to do any HubSpotting for at this time. So no, we managed to achieve those things. We experimented with a lot of things and then had to roll that back. All right, let's try this pricing tier. Oh, people hate that. Okay, so that's not
Hmm.
going to work. All right, let's try doing this feature. Oh, that feature's not working. So let's rebuild it. And we had to literally rebuild huge parts of the app because investors and advisors told us like you have to get this thing more battle ready to have like 50,000 people using it.
Wow.
This coding structure or whatever is probably not going to make it or be adaptable. So there were like logistical things like that that we were willing to do, and we got help and advisors from the board and the equity, the venture firms rather. And then it was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be part of a company that's going to go public on the New York Stock Exchange. This is incredible. Fun little
Hmm.
story about me. Again, I told you I'm big into like public speaking, and I was often volunteering or sought out after at HubSpot if there was, a tier B or tier C sort of speaking opportunity. Like these people, can we get Brian Halligan or Dharmesh, one of the co-founders, to speak at our 50-person conference out Metro West in Boston? And they're like, no, I'm sorry. He's like busy doing 1,000-person conferences. Sorry, bygones. But they'd say, we can send somebody from HubSpot Academy or whatever. And I'd be like, all right, yeah, man, I'll speak to an audience of 50 people or more. I'm trying to build my brand. I'm trying to get more experience and things like that. So this is like months before we know when the IPO date is or anything like that. And I remember it was for the Association of Associations. It was like the Northeast Association Managers Association or something. People who run associations. Doesn't really matter the organization. But the person said, hey, you're not going to stand us up, right? Like you're really going to send somebody from HubSpot. And I said, oh, absolutely, I'll be there. And what's the day we're going to do it? That's the morning that we're going to go public on the New York Stock Exchange. I'm the opening speaker for this conference. And I'm going to miss the opening bell, but back then you were so bleeding orange down for the cause. I'm like, I got it. I'm going to cover that base. I'm going to keep marketing. I mean, that was the
Hmm.
message. Hey, nothing changes. This is not the
Hmm.
beginning of the end. This is the end of the beginning. That's literally what Dharmesh Shah said to us. And they made a big deal about trying to make it not that big a deal, because what is that really achieving? You just sold off
Hmm.
a bazillion pieces of your company to now a bunch of people who are really hoping to get rich off of what you're going to do in the future. That's all that
Hmm.
really happened. You all got a piece of that, got a very small piece of that, but that's really all that happened. And if we can't fulfill the promise to now these tens of thousands, millions of people now who are sort
Mhm.
of counting on us, then it doesn't really matter what the heck we just did going public, does it? And now, since then, I've met people who, their company went public and the stock went down afterwards.
Yeah.
I remember talking to somebody saying, what if the HubSpot stock goes over $100? And the guy going, Nick, it's like not going to go over $100. Like that's what LinkedIn is trading at. And this is way back in the day. Now it's like
Yeah.
$600. So
So
you
crazy.
just don't know. I mean, nobody really
Mm.
knew when or how we were certainly going to go public, or even if we were going to go public. We just tried our best to watch the numbers and do the right things. And suddenly this is happening. And if we can maintain this, it's happened. And now we don't know if we're all going to get wealthy unless the company gets better and better and bigger and continues to crush its numbers. And wouldn't you know it, it did. And you asked about culture, how the culture changed. It was extremely important to the founders and therefore important to all of us because it attracted us. That culture was a competitive advantage. It was something we watched. It was a feature of the company. It was a feature of the platform. I remember certain people, because one of my jobs was to onboard HubSpot customers. I was like the first person you'd meet. You bought HubSpot. I'd be like, "Hi, Keaton. So and
Mm.
so just sold you HubSpot." You barely even know what happened. It's like I'm talking to somebody with a hangover after a really great party. I'm like, "So, what did you talk about?" I don't know. You mentioned something about blogging and content and keywords and a website, and they said you'd take care of it. You'd lead me to the promised land. I said, "All right, that's fine.
Mm.
I'll take you through it." I mean, I was doing that, but I would ask them, "Why did you buy HubSpot?" And they'd say, "First of all, you're the only company that actually would going to have somebody like you, Nick, on the phone leading me through the software. Most everybody else had some sort of online help, docs.
Mm.
Good luck. Watch some videos, go to our webinar. That's it." HubSpot
Yeah.
was willing to spend money, venture money. He didn't really charge the customer that much for this at all to have there be a small army of people like me willing to talk to you on the phone for 6 or 8 calls, across 3 or 4 months to make sure you got up and running well with the software. We wouldn't leave you alone unless you did. I get fired if you didn't use some of the key tools of the software that you bought. So that was helpful. And then the second one is they were like, "I just love your culture and I live in Kansas, so I can't work there. And I figured this is as close as I could get." I mean, literally people were saying that. I mean, that's literally what I did.
Wow.
I was in upstate New York, my first job. And I was like, "I love this company. I'm going to work for this company one way or another. And I'll buy it for now. At least that way I can commune with them, figure out what this is, get some expertise, and then jump over." Is
Wow.
what I did. The culture was awesome. And as the company grew, they worked hard to double down on it. Dharmesh wrote the culture code, and we talked about it. We're like, I don't think these cultural values change as we get bigger. We still want to be transparent. We
Mm.
still want people to use good judgment, treat them like adults. And so I found the culture was fairly intact, even though we started hiring 80 to 100 people a month. I was also involved because I was part of HubSpot Academy. We were like the professional teacher people inside the company. I was training new hires as well about what inbound was and how that all works and fundamentals about the software platform. So we were just training up and trying to inculcate people at scale as to what our culture is about, what the software is about, and what customers want to vibe with us about that. So I thought it held together, and I'm still stunned today because I've been a HubSpot partner. I never left the HubSpot ecosystem to this day. I've always either been working at HubSpot or in some agency or in some capacity representing or selling and supporting the software outside the company as part of their ecosystem. So, and the culture, even at thousands and thousands of employees, they still believe the same thing. And I think that's because the founders stayed in the game. And you don't often see that, Keaton,
Mm.
right? You don't see founders.
100%.
There's that book, "What Got You There Won't Get You Here." Oftentimes, like the
Mm.
founding group and the mindset or whatever they had is not the same that's going to get you to the IPO, or once you're at the IPO, it's not going to get you beyond. But for the longest time, and
Right.
still to this day, like Dharmesh and Brian have been like beating hard of what we believe. They're like the yin and the yang of the culture. It's great. And now there's obviously new leaders
That's
like
so
Yami
cool.
and others who've come in, but it
Mm.
really started with those two guys sticking with it and eating, sleeping, and breathing that culture all the way through and growing up themselves and
Yeah.
sharing the journey all along the way.
Man, that is such a cool story, man. I love
Yeah,
it. I love it.
it was awesome.
Yeah, such cool insight there, man. So you had that experience with HubSpot
Mhm.
and you had a few roles in between, but now you are running your own company. And
Mhm.
I would just love to hear from you, like, what has this experience been like for you hopping in from scaling HubSpot from really like a small, medium-sized company to like almost like an enterprise, not almost like a straight up enterprise
Mhm.
to now running your own small firm. Yeah, what's that experience been like? Yeah.
Well, shout out to any of the solos or the freelancers and stuff who are listening in on this. But, Keith, I've been getting ready to do this probably for like 9 years. So it
Oh,
wasn't
wow.
like this, oh man, I just did something really crazy and reckless. I was sort of dancing around this idea for many years, but I got 3 kids at home, and I just wanted to be sure we were in a good position financially and then everything. And then I really understood what I needed to understand if I was going to try to build something well-rounded. I mean, you run your own business. You're in charge of the accounting, you're in charge of HR, you're in charge of the website, you are in charge of all of sales, all of collections, all of service delivery, you're in charge of all of marketing. You name it, right? And so what I really was trying to give myself a mini MBA like at HubSpot. I was on the customer success team and then on the HubSpot Academy team. And then when I went out into the HubSpot partner channel and started working for these other agencies, I started getting into sales, and I sold millions of dollars of agency services for HubSpot's top partners to help other HubSpot customers build their websites and do inbound marketing on HubSpot and things like that. So I learned a lot of selling that way. And I always tried to pick, and that's what I loved about working with our agency partners. Most of them were like 30 to 60 employees and stuff like that. So I could work very closely with those founders too. And they're regular people like us, right? And how are you guys figuring out HR? Try to get a seat at the table at some of those business organizing decisions and stuff, and how we put on conferences and things. So I think that's my advice for anybody is if you're thinking about being a solo or going out on your own or entrepreneurship, get around other entrepreneurs and work for them and try to be their understudies, their chiefs of staff, their foot soldiers. What gaps do they need plugged? What stress can I reduce for them in exchange for their advice, their experience, the chance to kind of let them go through the minefield first, if
Mhm.
you will. And they were happy to trade me that experience for my selling and marketing chops. And I think what I took away going into this year is you gotta, if you want to be out on your own, you better be ready, willing to sell. You gotta be in
Mhm.
sales. And I think a lot of people, if they're being honest with themselves, don't go out and do this because they haven't sold before. They're afraid to sell. They're afraid of the
Mhm.
rejection, like that. I'm not saying you ever get over that. And rejection is even scarier when it's like your thing. Like, do you want me, not just this brand or logo or this other
Right.
person's product that they made, but do you want what I think I'm worth, what I think I cost, what I want to do? No. Okay. What does that mean?
Right.
So I think you have to get some sales resilience. You have to get enough experience, which I did when I worked for one of the HubSpot's top partners. I must have fielded 150 serious, legitimate sales ops over the course of a year, and so
Wow.
I understood that it's inevitable, the law of large numbers. You are going to get some people who are just going to say no, but a lot of times they don't go, no, Keaton, I don't want you. I want the other guy. Usually it's like, Keaton, we changed our mind. We're not even doing that anymore. Or
Right.
I'm leaving the company, so the plan has now been put on hold, or I just got fired, or stuff like that. Like the biggest competition that you have to whatever you're selling, solo or otherwise, is inaction on the part of the buyer. They may not pick another person. They might just not do it. They might just chicken out and go, yeah, you know what? I looked at the market. It seems pretty complicated, pretty expensive. I don't think we're ready for it. That's a very common, ABM, I know, is
Mhm.
another one of your passions. A lot of people are just
Yeah.
like, we're not ready for ABM. And you're like, well, I don't know how you're going to get ready just saying we're not ready. You have to eventually start taking some steps. So I think being able to sell, and I learned at one of these agency partners where I sold a lot that about 1 in 6 serious opportunities was going to say yes. If you could get
Mhm.
6 companies seriously considering working with you in a
Mhm.
30-day period, there's a chance, at least in what we were selling, what we were doing. And I found this actually holds true even now for me in selling other things, will say
Yeah.
yes. Again, just because the other 5 aren't going to necessarily explicitly say no, but one might not say yes for another 3 or 4 months. One is never going to say yes to anybody. One might have said yes to you, but you said something weird that they didn't like, or maybe they don't like
Mhm.
your face or whatever it is. There's going to be something that either you can
Yeah.
control or really can't control. They're just not going to like about you, and they're going to pick some other. I've asked them. I've even had prospects
Mhm.
deep enough, and it was competitive enough with us and some other firm. And I'd say, "Would you please just tell me why you went with them?" And we still had a good enough relationship. They told me, they're like, "I just like their style better. It's just a bit more of a fit for the rest of our team." So, well, what can I say to
Oh,
that?
wow.
What can I do? I'm not going to
Yeah,
change.
you're like, "Dang, man."
We already have a
Yeah.
pretty good culture here. I think we connected as best we could. I introduced you to the best people I could you might be working with. And if you like those other folks better, I can't fault that. But the point is if that's the truth, then that means it's volume. You need to be good
Mhm.
at generating opportunities for yourself and then not screwing up those opportunities so that you can get that 1 in 6 close rate.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're not very good at selling or you're not very effective on the calls, maybe it's 1 in 8 or 1 in 10,
Mm.
So, but I felt if you're at least decent, you're working off of a script, you're working off a deck, you know what you're selling, you know what you're doing. 1 in 6 feels good. And
Yeah.
then how do you get to 6? This is the other thing I needed to get good at, and I'm still working on, Keaton. And this is what we're doing
Yeah.
tonight, is like steady drumbeat of producing your content. I teach this to HubSpot
Yeah.
customers even a decade ago, is why are we blogging? Yes, we do want to get found in certain keywords by strangers, but I want to create. I got my customers in HubSpot, and I do this today, create content for 2 reasons. Number one is I'm trying to create sales material on the fly. I'm going to create content that I can send in emails ahead of a meeting, after the meeting, or that they can send to their bosses, their colleagues, the influencers, the champions, the people on the decision committee, what have you. That's one reason why you create content. And I would certainly, when I'm working with these like small business owners, I'm like, I don't know if you can get found for this keyword by strangers, to be honest. I'm not even sure, but I do know if you write an article that is based on a common objection that you get or a question that you get all the time in sales, and we put that article up on your website, it's going to help you. You can put that article in front of people instead of having to wait for them to yak, like hear you on the phone and then have them hopefully paraphrase whatever you just said to their boss. And they're either not going to do it or they're going to screw it up. So why not write stuff down? And the second thing is to show people your taillights and dust. Show them I'm moving on. I am creating stuff. My shop is open. And when we're in a digital world and people are now evaluating you not by walking through your literal storefront, but they're watching you online and they see that there's nothing new on your site. There's nothing happening. There's no news. There's no anecdotes about customers you helped, things you learned, conferences you went to. That's where a blog truly can be a blog. To show them I'm in business, I'm doing stuff. I'm meeting with people, I'm making stuff happen. And then it's social proof and people go, he's really committed to this, isn't he? Right? There's people who are really following what they're doing, aren't they? I think I might want to become one of his 1 in 6 opportunities this month. So I think you have to have both oars in the water. And if you're willing to create helpful content that is based on the types of questions, objections, fears, hopes, or whatever that your ICP, your target market, is interested in, and you're able to sell them effectively. And I think also sales comes from, I'm committed to 1 or 2 particular services, 1 or 2 SKUs, if you will. And I'm not quite there yet. I often am a chameleon, will change a little bit of what I'm offering right now. Cause also I'm kind of doing product market fit. I'm sort of like, is this what you like? Is this what I like? I'm not sure. I can afford to take that chance. But I think the rubber really hits the road when you say, no. Now I know what I want to do. I know what it costs me to do it. I know what it's worth to people. And I know who I want to do it for. That gives you confidence like nothing else. And I'm not saying that's easy confidence to get, but I think once you got that trifecta, I know what I'm offering. I know what it's worth. I'm not backing down. And I know I've got a system and a formula and a framework where I can do it scalably. I can stack engagements on top of each other. I can build a team around. I can teach to others or something like that. I'm going to write about it regularly every week, show people I'm doing this. I'm spreading the word. I'm preaching the gospel of whatever I believe in on behalf of my market. And then I'm going to sell consistently. I'm going to make sure I put enough ops in my pipeline. I'm having enough conversations. And for me at the beginning, Keaton, I was like, I'm just going to talk to 2 or 3 of my friends in my network on LinkedIn and otherwise every day. That's all I know I can do. I'm going to talk to people, and sometimes I'm getting advice. Sometimes I'm getting leads and opportunities and referrals. Sometimes I'm just catching up and staying in the mix. But it's been interesting. And I would say also I can understand now, and I really appreciate the allure and the value of having just a salary and just a job. Like I get it. I get it more than I ever did before. So I don't blame anybody who's listening to this going, Nick, I'm not interested in that, or I'm feeling a little guilty. I haven't stepped out. It's like, hey man, no, what you have is the ability to predict and rely upon, at least until you get laid off or you have a Jerry Maguire moment and decide to leave. But like that you got something you can build around. I'm not positive what my Q1 will look like yet. You know, maybe in a couple of years, I'll have that same solidarity and that flow, but it is thrilling, but also nerve wracking to think I can take this thing in any direction and who knows what direction will be correct, but I'm going to pick one.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps
Man.
or what else you want to know there.
Yeah, no, that is awesome, man. There's a lot of interesting elements there. You mentioned there's 2 things I want to dive into.
Please.
First one is the sales motion. You talk about, say, 1 in 6 will like high quality leads is one that will like actually close. I'm curious, what is your favorite sales tool that, like, I should say probably sales skill that you utilize to keep that number as low as possible, keeping it at 1 in 6 and not 1 in 10, like you mentioned?
Good question. So, first of all, getting people to become one of the 1 in 6. Yes, we need what's traditionally been called the top of the funnel. You need some sort of thought
Mhm.
leadership. This is the greatest trends that we're facing. Here's a bunch of tips for how to do better. That content is, what if your company didn't exist and you had to tell people what to do if you weren't there to do it for them, or your tool wasn't there to do it for them? That's top of the
Mhm.
funnel. Just
Yeah.
teach them, prove to them that you know every other way to possibly solve this problem, and you made something even better. That's a great conclusion of somebody consuming your top of the funnel. Wow, they know all about my pains. They know all about the
Mhm.
alternatives. And therefore, what they came up with stands on top of all that. That's amazing. That's like, we're doing top of the funnel right. So let's assume that's in place. Then you need a great, again, I'm just using the funnel because we've all known about it for years, right? Marketing and stuff like that. We might call it the loop now, or the flywheel, whatever the heck the term is. But the
Mhm.
point is somebody who's getting closer to considering taking action, we need something really
Mhm.
great besides consult, call. Okay, cool. You're going to do a free assessment. Can we merchandise that better on the landing page? Can we sell
Mhm.
that a little bit better in your video, in your promotional email, from the stage of the conference where you're offering that at the end of your talk or whatever it is? Like, just play up much more for the person. What do you mean free consult? What am I going to honestly walk away with? Is this just a bait and switch? Is there a framework or something like that? HubSpot, one of their biggest and best offers was a thing called Website Grader. And what does that tell you? Like, people love to have their stuff graded and assessed by
Mhm.
other subject matter experts, leaders in the field. Please reduce what I'm doing into some sort of number, score, profile, or whatever. I think it's just this innate human need. We had even a tool
Yeah.
inside HubSpot that had barely worked by the time I got there, called Page Grader. You were just hoping
Mhm.
that people wouldn't even notice this tool because it didn't quite match. The way that it calculated the numbers and stuff was just like obsolete. But people would lean onto it. I can't get my page grade to improve. And I'm like, it's just an algorithm. It's just a guideline. Don't worry about it. But people, they want certainty, and numbers help people quantify and benchmark themselves. So, in my opinion, our best ability at HubSpot, and I also found this at other agencies, was somebody's going to engage deeper with us, become an op, or at least get into the bottom of the funnel because they wanted personalized. They wanted to find out all the stuff you're talking about at the top of the funnel. How does that apply
Mhm.
to their specific situation? Because they don't want to
Mhm.
guess. They don't want to have to think too hard. So if they do the grader, take the assessment, sit down with your experts and have their, you could be selling whatever, engineering, software, whatever, and just have their situation assessed and get something they can
Mhm.
walk away with that's actually like useful and valuable, even if they didn't become your customer. And that's what if you used HubSpot's website grader, they made all sorts of graders now from since then. Like, you could walk
Yeah.
away and go, and there were many customers did. I'd get an onboarding customer. So, how long have you been following HubSpot? 2 years. Okay. And he's like, I did everything possible that I could scrape from your blog and from the grader for free. And now finally I need to like do something more diesel. So I bought the tool. I'm working
Mhm.
with you guys now. So I think if you want to get more ops in, offer something juicy. I will assess, I will grade, I will personally walk you through your situation and give you a detailed plan that whether you work with us or not, you'll be able to take to the bank, take to your team, take action on, or even bring to a competitor. And when I was,
Mhm.
so that's worked when we were selling software. And then when I was out of the agencies, we were selling services. But how we were doing it? Offering website teardowns, free assessment, free inbound marketing assessments, free HubSpot portal audits. If you were already a HubSpot customer, or you're not, well,
Mhm.
then inbound readiness assessment and things like that. And we could use a simple spreadsheet to start with and grade you, and just put values in the spreadsheet and have a simple formula that would spit out, red, yellow, green, and that type of stuff. Or then eventually we'd build a whole informal calculator on the website using apps and stuff like that. So I think just those types of experiences, promising that type of value in the sales process, and letting people know if they stop the sales process at any time, they're still going to walk away with value. I think that's just super compelling to get people in. And honestly, it's a lesson to myself. I need to produce that same sort of like, what's my sort of event grader or go to market grader? Because a lot of
Mhm.
what I do now is helping people organize and put on, as I said, webinars, better together
Mhm.
stories with their partners and ecosystems and their customers. So how could I
Yeah.
help them either self grade, or I can quickly grade? Here's how you're doing with your customer marketing, your virtual event and webinar strategy, your partner channel, all those things I love and to help people with. Give them a something, play that up, merchandise that a bit more in the call, not just a consult with me, which is what I do now. So that would be my advice if they want to get more ops in. Is that what you were wondering, or more?
Yes, yes, I love that. I think that's fantastic advice. Basically, it's like, yeah, they're booking a call with you, but you're providing them value. No matter what, this potential client is gaining value, which makes the opportunity to even just like book a call with you that much more alluring. I love that. I'm also really curious, like, is like your favorite like sales technique, say, to help like say close a deal?
Mhm.
So a lot of these techniques that you're mentioning are fantastic, like B2B marketing strategies to like bring ops in.
Mhm.
But I'm curious on the closing side, is there any techniques that you've learned that helps on that side of the house?
Yeah, a couple things. We could just talk about tactically something that it's kind of sales 101, but it can't be said enough. Like just being able to ask people like, are you ready to go? Does this make sense? Is there anything holding you back? Like just asking, just really asking for the sale at a certain point. Or where do things stand with you? How did you feel about what I said just now? And you do that enough, you realize the vast majority of people are not going to let you down. They're going to be like, even if they're kind of like not ready, they're going to be polite about it. And almost best case scenario, even if they're not going to say yes, they'll at least tell you why. What I liked what you said was this, but I didn't quite hear that. I heard that from some of the other
Mhm.
alternatives we're considering. Like that's all. Why not ask? Why not just leave the floor open and tell? I heard somebody say, assume the negative. What is it about what I said that concerns you? All right.
Mhm.
Now I'm inviting it, you know? So I think just that is one. And then also using other people in your firm, people who are not,
Mhm.
don't have the sales hat on. So I sold
Mhm.
professional services a lot, still do today,
Yeah.
obviously. I'm a consultant, freelancer, but I would bring in a senior strategist, let's say for selling marketing services, or I could bring in a sales engineer or a product expert for selling software. So I could merchandise that. Let's get to the next call and talk to this person. And then that person is like automatically wanting to sell because they've got no skin in the game. They don't care. They're not going to lose commission or whatever it is, you know? So they're on going, yeah, you should definitely do this. Or yeah, you've got a real problem here that we could fix. So I think getting the SME, the engineer, the passionate person inside your company, and sometimes as a very busy sales rep, that person's very busy too, is making
Mhm.
a sort of an SLA with them. Hey, I can get you for 3 or 4 ops, 3 or 4 calls this month. That's all I'm asking, you know,
Mhm.
and sometimes having alignment on revenue goals will really help that person if they know, hey, that we're all going to make the number. If I help you make the number, that
Mhm.
will build that. So I think using other people in your company as the excuse, can we take the next call? Because I want you to meet that next
Mhm.
person. Or that person thought very well of you. They thought you'd be a great fit. I'm not just the sales rep, the coin
Yeah.
operated person who of course thinks everybody's a great fit, but that person who had very little skin in the game or whatever thought what you had as high potential. That can often help. Sometimes they're so close, but we need them, like they're gonna say yes. As I told you, the biggest problem
Mhm.
is often not getting them to say yes, but saying yes today or yes for this month at least. So
Yeah.
we've taken some chances and said, hey, why don't we just kick off? Oh, I know, but we haven't finalized the paperwork and stuff. Yeah, I know. Like, we won't go to any NDA stuff, but why don't we just like meet the team and why don't we just kind of get some of the preliminary stuff laid down? Like, let's just assume the sale. And it's still
Mhm.
worth a risk because even if they back out, and sometimes they do, what do you risk? Like 1 call, 2 calls, you got some of your team a little bit more exposed to the sales process and everything anyways. Like it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
So kind of just getting going a little bit. And then you can take that even further. And we did this at a couple other agencies and people still doing this today is offer something really cheap and small that gets the wallet open, gets us in a formal relationship, but it's low risk. You can approve this today. You don't have to go to your boss for this. This is a low enough threshold. We do things like a HubSpot portal audit, free strategy assessment. And especially if you're a professional
Mhm.
services company, you kind of need that assessment to truly, some people will say, can you completely re-architect our website? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. How much would that cost? No, I don't. I mean, do we do that with house building? Hey, here's the field I want to build my house. Like, how much is it going to cost? Well, what type of house are we talking about? Do you want to look just like the old crummy house? Oh, our website stinks, but this is our website today. How much would it cost to build a better version of this? Is it going to look exactly like this? Obviously not. That's not why you would pay. So you need to have an architect come in. So, and at the enterprise level, I think a lot of customers understand this, but for
Mhm.
us, maybe in SMB land or startup land, just think of what is a piece of our sales process or how we usually have to kind of assess and scope, and we would eat that cost ourselves. Can
Yeah.
we offer that off as a product and let them buy? It felt like heresy at first when we tried doing that. And like, we can't ask people to do like we should do that for free. And then
Mhm.
wouldn't you know it? Yeah, somebody will pay you $5,000 to really take a deep dive look through their website, build out an entire site architecture, tell them what their whole header and footer might look like and get some alignment on that before we go in, and then give them an actual take it to the bank scope and quote, not just the sales guy kind of eyeing it out back of the napkin numbers, but actually get the head of like web services to say, yep, this is going to be this. And we stand by it. And here's the whole project schedule to prove it. That's valuable. So I think smaller ticket assessment style, strategy style, tee up the rest of the product type offerings are really good to get the customer closing on something that's low risk, easy, not very political for them to have to say yes to.
I love it, man. I love it, man. I think that there's some gems in there. I'm really curious as well. We haven't really talked about AI at all,
Yeah.
but you are a founder in the middle of, or freelancer in the middle of like the age of AI. And so I am very curious on how AI has affected, say, your practice, but I am really curious on how AI has affected your practice. You started now almost over 3 years ago. Yeah, how has this changed how you approach B2B marketing?
Well, I'm a big fan of it because I think as marketers, there's just too much to be done. It's really nowadays, it's like, is this even one job? Like, can we even call this like marketing? Like, this is writing, like IT. This is so many things now. So I think, and a lot of marketers, you talk to them, they're constantly, they feel like overworked, spread too thin, starved for budget,
Yeah.
starved for help, right? You were the sales and marketing team of one. I've been that so often. I can so relate to that. So AI was like, oh, here is the greatest assistant of all time. Like there's certain writing assignments, if you will, that I've given to an AI assistant that I'm like, I would be ashamed to ask a writer, a real person, to come up with a rap lyrics using about tech business headlines that are 2 minutes long and I need it right now. Well, you can't do that with normal human beings. They'd be like, excuse me, what? So just the fact that like the machine doesn't care and the machine's going to bend over backwards to try to give you what you want. And then I can riff and add my spin on it. So it's like having the greatest free writing team, writing buddy, help me make sense of all this gobbledygook that I jotted down in my notes, this transcription of this interview that Keaton and I had. Please pull out the 3 to 5 bet. You know how it is. And we're on Riverside right now. Like I think about how much easier our lives are with Riverside, auto transcribing what we're doing right now, being able to auto reduce the
100%.
ums and ahs to level out our audio levels. Like think about who you had to pay, how long you had to wait, the fact you had to line up vendors for all that. Those vendors can get backlogged, take vacations and all that. And I obviously love humans. I'm a human. Keaton's a human. Humans are great. But humans are also tired, overworked, and often alone out on an island trying to pursue their dreams. And like here finally is like this catch-all Swiss Army knife that's like, I just want to give you whatever you want. I realize I don't guess it right every time, but I just will keep trying and I won't ever give up. Like that's amazing. I've never had that. And it's really only become part of my life and a lot of people's lives in the last like 18 months. I mean, we were at Drift and we thought we knew what AI was. We're like, we got these chatbots that we still have to program in the background. Like we're trying to help manipulate the LLMs and stuff like that, human style. Now that's just happening with machines. Like it's teaching itself and things like that. So it's been rapid fire, like insane fast. But let's talk about literally how it applies to, as an example, to the work that I do. If we're trying to help organize and plan an event, think about it. I gave a talk at Inbound, like I said, back in September, and I talked all about B2B sales strategies if you're organizing and putting on field events. And I want to give people a number of templates. I have a bunch of examples of drafts of like event briefs and run of schedule or run of shows and here's the know before you go deck. But I didn't have those in like a generic offer this out to the general public sort of way, but I could feed that into AI and say, out of all these examples that I'm showing you, each is a little bit different. Can you make a generic version that will serve these purposes and have these needs? So like, I think that now the creativity goes into how you tee up the assignment for yourself and the machine. Because I'm still doing it. Like I'm getting this machine to do it. Like I don't say the calculator is doing my math for me. Like I'm doing math. This is a tool to do math. Like I don't say the computer is typing. I'm typing. I'm using tools to do this, but I'm doing it. So a prompt to me is just a very fancy form of the same thing of calculating, typing, or whatever it is. But I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm also embarrassed as to how much I'm trying to get AI to grok in a single prompt. I'm like, this prompt is 3 pages long. Like, what am I doing? I have separated this and let this thing take it one chunk at a time? But damn, does that thing just go, yeah, no problem. Got it, boss. I'll ingest these 3 or 4 transcripts and your 4 or 5 paragraphs of wishes and hopes and dreams. And bro, what do you think about this? So back to the story is I basically could produce these templates in minutes. And obviously I'd scrub them a little bit, but I was able to offer 6 or 7 templates where I might have not even offered one in the past because I just maybe just didn't get around to it. I just didn't have the will to see this cool idea through. So you can create templates, and also you can use AI to fill out the template. So here's the brief I need to fill out about this event that Nick is helping me with. Can you just fill in, knowing everything you know about my company, what I should put in there, and just get like a draft, some of the entries and stuff like that. And I'm sure there's certain purists here that say that's not the way to use AI, or you're supposed to help it. You're supposed to do all the thinking, and then it'll just refine your thinking. Okay, I do that too, by the way. I think you do too. Like, it depends on the spectrum of where you're at and what we're doing here, and how much thinking truly needs to be yours versus helped out and sourced. And by the way, like, I'm giving it my words, like the transcript, my documents, what I've done. I say, based on everything you know about me, my business, my voice, what I've ever said on a podcast, what I said in this talk, this outline, everything. So it is me, by the way. So anyway, so I think you can have it build planning assets for you. You can have it complete planning assets for you. I use AI to help us do market research. Who should be the right targets to invite to this event? So we can figure what are the right events for us to consider sponsoring? What are some of the top meetups that are happening in this city, in this month or whatever? And you can't get this from Googling it. You can't get this from, remember Googling it used to be copping out, by the way. That used to be taking the shortcut.
That's crazy.
In college, they'd be like, how dare you use Wikipedia and stuff like that. Now they're like, you went to a library and just looked at books. Like, what are you, new? So I think that, where was I? It was the idea that AI can help you also research, make decisions, prospect, find candidates for where to hold your meeting, who to invite there. And also maybe do some, like, sometimes I find that events do not get planned very well because humans don't want to have an awkward conversation about, all right, sales, you don't really know anybody, do you? You are hoping this event is going to go bring strangers out of the ether. Like, we're just going to put up this bat signal of like free shrimp at our thing. And a smart person's going to give a talk. And now strangers are going to be like, you know what? I got nothing to do today. Why don't I just go out and go to that? Yeah, there might be a couple. I'm always very impressed when people just like, that was enough for them. But oftentimes it's like sales, if you don't know anybody, then here's how the conversion rate's going to drop. Like, let the AI and the logic of the machine point out to somebody the awkward conversation of, we're not ready. That conversion rate's not going to work. Is that a good benchmark for companies like us? How many people should we invite? Like, just helping it crunch the numbers and bring the truth to your team that we need more. We're going to need more contacts. We're going to need to focus on stronger relationships and stuff like that. And then, so I've used it for there. And then also, what about the invites? Sales, you say, sales, I got HubSpot for you. You can do sequences, you can do workflows. All we need, because again, we're trying to not make this up, is what would you write in those email sequences? And does sales ever write those sequences for you? Usually not. I've been a sales rep. I know how it is. I got to write something to go into a machine. It's going to go out to strangers automatically. I don't know what you're talking about. I send emails to contacts I know. So all I'm saying is you can use AI to start those drafts. You could say, here's some emails that sales has forwarded me. I'm going to load that into our AI assistant. And there's AI embedded in HubSpot now. They've got Breeze, those assistants and stuff, but you can also just use in GPT and ChatGPT and bring it in, or Claude, whatever you like, and write and draft those. And sometimes it gives them confidence. Oh yeah, so this was battle tested with AI, and it gave some of the best practices from these brands or whatever it was, or from our 3 or 4 best performing emails. And now this is our sequence. So you can just like write deliverables and get a straw man, a first draft out of some promotional assets. I think is great. And then you can have AI chat bot agents during a virtual event saying, hey, welcome to the event. Where are you trying to go? Or we can recognize from your reverse IP lookup, like from your address, we know who you are. This is getting to your ABM stuff, right? Like, so therefore, here's the rep who's assigned to you. I'm pinging them right now on their phone, so they know that you're at the event and that type of thing. You can use AI, obviously, as we talked about with Riverside, but it certainly can happen on Zoom webinars, whatever. Live transcripts, like, the recap on the event can come out within minutes sometimes. And we've used AI to create an ebook out of this panel discussion that we did on this webinar or something like that. So you can quickly create recaps, quickly create follow-ups, like get assets back out to the attendees or the people who didn't come in a different format. Here it is in the written word, or here's the 3 or 5 best clips that Riverside will automatically produce for us, right? You're like, how did they find that clip? That is the best 90 seconds right there, right? I just put out a clip on Riverside from a podcast interview I did this morning for an event I'm emceeing tomorrow. So yeah, I use it often, and hopefully that gives people some ideas, and then you just start the loop all over again. Great, that event was successful based on everything that you saw, from who came, what we talked about, what the key takeaways were, the city where we had it, the emails that we sent out. Where should the next city be? Where should the next event be? And then who should we invite differently? And we're not saying you follow that thing blindly, but it's nice there's wisdom in many counselors. It's nice to get the machine to give you the zeitgeist of what the web thinks.
100%. I love it, man. Again, so much insight there, so much knowledge there, and your experience is really shining through.
Sweet.
I'm curious, man. So, like, you mentioned a lot of use cases for AI, and of course, there are many. I am very curious, though. Do you have any AI tools that are like kind of underground that you
Mm.
tend to use for some of these use cases?
I hear you. Like stuff that's like people might not think of it or know of it. Is that what
Yeah.
you're kind of saying? It's not like, oh, I just
Yes.
use ChatGPT in a way that maybe you've heard of, but like, oh, I didn't quite know.
Yeah.
Today's underground is like tomorrow's everybody's doing it.
100%.
Forgive me if I mention something that someone's gonna be like, done it, heard of it. But like I was in the
Yeah.
last 6 months, like shocked at how far along like automatic slide deck creation can be. And I've never presented a deck that was entirely generated by AI, but to see it
Mhm.
kind of get very close, like get me started with the first draft. There's this tool called Gamma.ai. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it
Mhm.
by now. But the fact that you could feed it in like other decks that you've done and say, can you reposition this
Yeah.
to be with a different color even? Sales reps aren't designers and stuff like that all the time. You don't have like a design bureau just hanging out to work with you. So being able to get some mock-ups and stuff on Gamma, auto slide decks, I thought was very cool. One thing I've
Mhm.
been using a lot is this tool called MetaPrompt, and it's a free
Mm.
tool. And they're prompt optimizers. I think that's a bit
Oh,
of
yeah.
a ninja move is find a prompt optimizer. The one I like is the one that was designed by Dharmesh Shah, the co-founder of HubSpot, called MetaPrompt, and you load in your prompt there. It goes, this is a better, I know what you're trying to get across, Nick. It asks you a couple of clarifying questions, which I love, like in drop down format
Mhm.
usually. And then boom, here's a better prompt. Put that into ChatGPT and you're like, wow, oh my gosh, it's far more specific. I got far better
Mhm.
outputs. That just saved me a bunch of time. So I like that. Sometimes it's not even just about AI underground tools, but maybe a sort of like a progressive or maybe a way of using the tools you've heard about that you haven't done before. Like I was
Mhm.
challenged by a peer of mine to, once you get an output from a generative AI tool or LLM tool, like let's say ChatGPT, you can ask it what biases or assumptions are inherent in what you just gave me.
Mm.
And I've been shocked to the things like, well, actually, now that you mentioned it, there's a bunch of biases. I'm like, why didn't you say so, dude? Like, okay, well, now I'm glad I asked, you know? And then it's like, and then you tell it, and please address, how would I address them? And then it says, these are the biases, these are the assumptions, and this might be how you can address it. And some of the stuff, I can't want to bore us with anecdotes, but I was like, wow, you're absolutely right. We forgot about that population or the fact that those people might be introverts versus extroverts or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And it tells you already how to address it. So you're like, well, why don't you update the proposal or update the plan or whatever with that in mind? So I think just asking, challenging your own assumptions on it has been very cool.
Mhm.
And then the last thing I'll say, Keaton, is if people haven't used this, it's also made by founded by Dharmesh anyways, Agent.ai. So we all know about AI agents now, and that's like an AI agent playground. Like it's basically like the Playmobil version of
Cool.
like building your own agent. WYSIWYG, drag and drop. It connects to all the major LLM models. It's free, but it's not to digress too much. It actually all ties together. But HubSpot has got very good at creating free resources, then eventually free tools. First, it was just ebooks. Then eventually they made
Mhm.
those graders, right? But they didn't stop there. You mentioned you love the HubSpot CRM.
Yeah.
That is a lead gen tool. The
Mhm.
CRM, they said, what if we gave people that for free, which was unheard of back then. It was like, you what? Like, you can't just give
Mhm.
this away for free. How much does it cost to build this thing and maintain it? They're going to load millions of contact records in there. And then you're going to auto enrich those contact records and things like that. How much does that cost? Those API calls and stuff like that? Like you
Mhm.
have to pay vendors and stuff like that to pull that stuff. There's a big industry
Mhm.
just on API calls going back and forth to enrich software tools that we use. So I was like, how the heck? But then you realize it's shooting fish in a barrel. You're putting them in your walled garden. Who's more likely to buy?
Mhm.
This person who read your ebook about why inbound marketing is great, or the person who's already got 1 million of their contacts in your software that they signed up for, gave you their email address,
Mhm.
like they're looking at your logo and in your tool every day. They're already halfway there. The halfway point is we made those certifications. I was on the Academy team, made the certifications. That became the highest converting, correlating to becoming a customer thing. Because again, read an ebook or watch 5 hours of video to get a badge made by HubSpot and put it on your LinkedIn profile because you believe HubSpot is cool. That person's going to buy far more likely than just the ebook, the curious ebook downloader who never reads the thing anyway. So they just
Mhm.
carry this philosophy a little bit further. How can I commune deeper with the customer at scale and
Mhm.
provide value at scale? So the CRM became that. that tool, and then they upsold you from there. So Agent AI is the same thing. If they can get you using AI agents with them for free, I can't imagine what it costs to build the Agent.ai website and maintain it. They got like dozens of staff members and stuff, some of my former colleagues, but they want you using AI with HubSpot because we all know AI is going to change the face of SaaS forever. It already is. Dharmesh, who is just the seer of tech, like I swear, he just knows. He spends all night just on Reddit or whatever the heck he does, and he just figures out this is where it's moving. And he knew it's going to go AI. It's AI agents. That's where it's going to be in the future. And we got to skate there first. There was a big philosophy at HubSpot's, and I know I'm only digressing on this because I know you're interested, and maybe others are as well, but it was like, we have to disrupt ourselves first. We have to be the first to disrupt ourselves. How could we be disrupted? We're going to do it first. They said, we can be disrupted by someone making a cheaper version of the CRM. We'll make one for free. Try to disrupt that. Free. Salesforce. So free. And then it's the same thing with this agent thing. What would disrupt our SaaS platform? An agent that would do the whole thing for you. Well, then we're going to make agents. We're going to be the forefront of designing agents that will do everything for you. And then we'll put them into the software as we prove it out. And that's what it is. Now they have a Breeze agent marketplace branded in HubSpot. I guarantee there's a scheme to have, Agent AI, what they're innovating for everybody. You don't have to be a HubSpot customer to use Agent AI. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you're like, I don't use HubSpot, I don't care, go to Agent AI. They don't care. You can use their agents for free to do all sorts of stuff with your LLMs or otherwise. But if you were thinking about buying HubSpot, you can use a lot of these inbound marketing agents in the tool as well. And that's the game. They play it so well. That's why I've stuck in their orbit, man. Very, very clever.
Man, I love it. Yet those are some solid recommendations for underground tools because, I've heard of Gamma, but the other tools mentioned, specifically the Agent AI, I have not heard of.
Yeah.
And, I use HubSpot. So,
it's growing.
I
a
want to
couple
be
million users
checking it
now.
out.
Yeah.
Let's
Check
go.
it out, man.
Okay.
Build an agent, man, and let me know about it, and I'll use it.
Bet, man. Sounds like a plan. I love it. All right, man. Here is the final question for you.
Please.
And that is, how are you ensuring that you and your business stays future-proof?
Sure. And I love that premise of your whole podcast, Keaton, because I think those of us who are involved in tech, or we feel ourselves like, again, maybe feeling we're being disrupted. There's a lot of speculation and discussion about that, about how jobs and stuff are going to be disrupted. And here I am trying to bet on helping people create content using my human voice. But I remember seeing a job description just this week where it said voice actors being sought out, for $100 an hour or something. That's pretty good. Cool. I do voice acting and stuff as well. I use my voice. Let's check this out. What's it for? We want to train our AI model to talk like a human being. So we're going to pay you $100 an hour, and we're going to strip mine your voice. You're going to talk into a machine so that the machine can learn to talk like you. And we'll give you $100 an hour for it. And then we're going to sell your inflections, your vocal tones, and those of other voice actors, I'm sure they'll pay, to the world, so that we don't need you to do that anymore. And I'm not trying to say those people are greedy or whatever, that's just the way the world works. But it's, to your point, scary, because I think all of us are seeing little versions of that in whatever we've relied on and want to be doing with our lives. But here's the thing. Humans are the ones who give out the money, who experience the products, who influence decisions as to who's going to buy and stuff like that. They might consult data and charts and AI and LLMs for those decisions, but at the end of the day, they are fed out for someone to read, consume, ponder, and act upon. So that's never going to change. I told you I was a DJ. People said, you're moving from CDs to MP3s. That'll be the end of it. We're moving from MP3s to Spotify. That'll be the end of it. The fact of the matter is, humans want someone to watch that, whatever it is. In this case, it was the music. I've never had a problem doing a DJ gig, and I still do 8 or 10 of them on the side every now and then, because people still need a human to set it all up, turn it on, run it, read the room, and adjust. It's the same thing in content marketing, inbound marketing, or whatever. You just cannot have a voiceless, soulless machine nail it as to what your specific target market needs to hear from your company. It can help. It can help synthesize, quickly format, give you some options, give you some opinions, feed stuff back, but aggregate things. But you ultimately, you can't replace taste. You can't replace the human connection. So I feel like my business is even more important, because AI is going to take care of everything else. But now we need to have you as a human get lit up and get ready to light up other humans. And you can be reading off a script that was organized. I'm referencing talking points that AI helped organize for me for this call, Keaton, right? Like I've got those
Yeah.
off here to the side. That helps,
Yeah.
but that's not why people came. That's not why they're listening to this call. Listening because there's two guys talking about war stories, trying to build our careers, right? So I do believe there'll be an era where agents will just talk to agents, and that'll be great. They're going to do the shopping for us. They might do the negotiating for us. That stuff's all BS anyways. We never wanted to do that part. But the let's connect and have fun, and no one's trying to outsource that. Let's entertain each other. I'm not trying to outsource that to an agent. You entertain my agent for me. No, I want the entertaining part. I want the engagement, the inspiring part. So that's honestly, Keaton, the impetus of why I did this. It's like, I have to do this because everything else is going to get disrupted, commoditized, boiled down. I need to help the humans shine brighter than they ever have before and connect deeper and wider and faster than they ever have before, because that is what people are going to crave more than anything. What's human, and how do I get more of that from this person?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. From what I can see and where I see the future going out is like, yeah, most technical things and stuff will get completely automated. And I think that's what's going to make a lot of the soft skills that much more important, relationship building that much more important. And then those things that foster, let's say, relationship building and like fun stuff is going to be what people end up doing. So like events, like you mentioned how you do a lot of trade shows, conferences, speaking events. I think those are going to become so vitally important in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Same thing for things like podcasts, like just like being able to just talk to somebody and
That's
actually
right.
build a relationship with somebody. I think is these things that I feel like they're important in the past, but I feel like they're just going to become absolutely vital as we go on in the future when things are just so automated.
I totally agree. And I'm sure you've thought about it. This is your podcast. I think about it as a podcast myself. Wow, there's a lot of podcasts out there. Like, are we too late to the game or whatever? But like, you're never too late to connect with the people who care about you and care about what you're talking about. And so that's all we're trying to do is like just to rally our people and build our connections. And I've just found that there's actually for every one podcast that's out there, there's a dozen other people that wish they had a podcast, but just they're like, ugh, I don't want to be on the mic. I don't even know how that works. And I don't want to sound foolish. I don't want to sound self-promotional. A lot of people is like,
Yeah.
they're actually trying to be courteous by not getting on the mic because they're afraid that what they're going to say is self-promotional. It's like, no, dude, people just want to hear you think. They want to hear how you think. They never get to hear that, So I'm trying to help pull that out of people, whether it's a webinar, podcast, or whatever. It's like, hey, like you said on the top of this call before we hit record, you're like, let's just jam, man. Let's just chat, right? And can you believe it? That's hard for some people to do on camera, on the mic. I think we get it. Right. But we've been at this for a bit. And I'm like, I think there's a business here. I think there's at least a couple dozen companies that long term need someone to help them come out of their shell, come correct to the market and tell them what they care about and how they think and who they're helping, and get their customers to tell stories more importantly. And those customers are sometimes needing to be held by the hand. So no, I'm excited about it, man.
Yeah. I love it.
Got me fired up.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And I think you're making a good bet on the business that you're building. I think,
means a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely the right path to go down. I think it's going to get just that much more important as time goes on.
Well, look me up, guys. Next Level Inbound is what I call the company. I want to help. We all know about inbound. We've been talking about it for an hour here, but I'm trying to take it to the next level. This is 2025 going on 2026. How do we take it to the next level? And it's what we've been talking about.
Yeah, love it. All right. See you guys. Dope, man.